This episode of Discuss Metal was recorded on March 11th, 2022. Our memories of metallic hardcore and metalcore. This is the Discuss Metal Podcast with Joel Bailey of Society's Finest. Hosted by Dan Terry and Joseph Wren. Presented by DiscussMetal.com. And I think the audience would agree that nervous is in fact the word of the day.
Nervous is the word of the day. Dude, I'm super nervous right now because I'm not really. I just got home from work. I don't actually feel I don't feel anything right now.
I feel nothing.
This is the buffer in the beginning of the show where we wait for people to start watching and say, hello.
Oh, would that be so sad? It's like Twitch all over again. I mean, it's only been 4 hours, but somebody might show up. So I'm gonna keep playing this game.
That's me on Twitch at 3 a.m. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to my Age of Empires 3 stream.
Oh, dude, Dragon Warrior, this guy. All right, we're playing Dragon Warrior at 4 o'clock in the morning. Thanks for watching my show, guys. All right, it's another blue slime. The quest, dude. That's your next stream. The quest to 50 metal slimes.
That's not gonna happen, man. That's random. That's random number generation. It's not gonna happen. Like I'll never run in. I've had entire runs of that game and never ran into a metal slime a single time. So I don't see that happening even a little bit. Not in this century. Oh man, indeed. Well, we are gonna have a fun conversation tonight, and that's a demand. So if you guys are starting to feel like it's not fun, make it fun. I mean, like this.
Oh, it's fun. Let's
spice it up a little bit. That's what I'm saying. It's funny. I'm clicking on my video. It's like your video's live now, and I was like, that's weird because I don't see it. Nor did I get a notification at all.
Dude, you're not supposed to watch yourself while you're live. You get some serious echo and feedback from that.
What's the point?
You'll break the space-time continuum.
What's the point if I can't look at my beautiful face?
You'll break the simulation.
That's right.
We're in a simulation again?
Yeah. No, did you hear about literally Grimes told her, like she was doing some interview and she was like, Elon literally believes that she's proof that he's living in a simulation.
Weird.
And he believes that and makes me an electric car that can drive itself. I'm cool with that.
They have 2 kids, right? And they're life partners. But do you know who she's dating?
No.
Okay, it's hilarious because I bet if I gave you 2,000 guesses, neither one of you guys would be able to guess who she is currently dating.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say
Joe. I want you to hold on. I want you to guess.
It's not me, dude. I'm telling you, it's not me.
Okay, go for it. Tell me what you think. And then I want to know what Dan thinks.
First question: is it?
No, there's no question.
Someone I should know.
Just throw out a name. Yes, the answer will be yes. Of course, it's a name you know.
Dave Lombardo.
No, but wow, that'd be interesting. Okay, go, Dan. Just throw out a name because honestly, if you picked a name out of a phone book, you'd probably have about the same odds as Joe just had.
I don't know. I mean, everybody's dating Pete Davidson now.
No, Grimes is currently dating Chelsea Manning.
Okay,
I didn't know that they lived in Austin.
Yeah,
and they do, and I guess that she's having children and a life partner with Elon, but her and Chelsea, I guess, are. I don't know. How does it? I don't know. Whatever, man. This is how we're going to start this conversation.
That's how we're starting it. We're going it.
Best 90s.
Yeah. Well, in case you guys didn't know, this is Discuss Metal Live. This is where we're live. We're unfiltered. We are just doing our thing. And this is one of those fun sort of shows where, we don't have to, edit anything. And by we, I mean Joe, because I don't edit anything. I let him do everything.
Before we get started, I just want to say happy 311 day, guys.
Hey, is amber the color of your energy?
Not yet, but I have some light bulbs. I can make it amber. Give me a second.
I'm just going to say, no, like,
there we go.
Here's the thing. I'm going to say this literally with all sincerity. Like, I know 311 is whatever they are currently. If you rewind to 1992, 93 as like a junior in high school, seeing 311 in a club off the first album, the music album, and then again the following year on the Grassroots album, like I'm a lifelong fan of that band. like I don't really listen to them currently, like, you know, in the current like Grateful Dead form kind of thing that they are. Like I appreciate it and dig it, but like I don't think people understand what they meant to music. And again, this is going to reflect upon the conversation we're going to have tonight. What a band in 1992, 1993 doing what they did meant. You know what I mean?
Are you saying that applied science directly leads to all things hardcore metalcore?
In a roundabout way, plus meth.
So much meth. Yeah.
I'm just saying. Listen, people want to beat up on 311. How does it Green Day? 311 and like 311. Honestly, like it's weird because like if you followed 311 for those first two albums, and even the third album, like you would imagine someone telling you, and hey, guess what, guys? In 2020, they're going to be the Grateful Dead of rap rock.
They do play 4-hour shows with a break in the middle, so you're not entirely wrong.
Imagine someone telling the middle school you that.
The middle school me was down for that. Back in middle school, it's down for it today. Do I want to see 311 play all their hits with a teleprompter for 5 hours? Yes, I do.
I mean, there's what I would have told you in middle school.
When they moved it from New Orleans to Las Vegas is when I knew, and it jumped the shark.
100%, no question.
All right, guys, we're changing format. All things 311. Let's go.
311 pop.
I think the dean of new metal just tuned out.
That's all I know. That's all I know about 311. Really, I mean, it's weird because you asked me if amber was the color of my energy. Is that the same thing as is that the same thing as like the urine chart? Because if that's my color, I might need to go to the hospital.
Oh my god!
Should I drink more water? I'll drink more water.
JUANBOND.
Oh.
So,
what are we talking about tonight, Dan?
Well, a couple of things. The first thing that we're going to talk about will be the acquisition of everybody's favorite music website, Bandcamp, the lifeblood of so many of my favorite bands and everyone else's, by a major corporation, which feels a little weird to me. And you know, maybe this is old news. I know somebody's gonna be like, "This is so last week. They did this live. I don't know why they're even talking about this." Because it's important to me. So I gotta throw it out there real quick. So in case you didn't know, Bandcamp was bought by Epic Games. Yes, that is Epic Games, i.e. Fortnite, Epic Games. And honestly, I'm trying to figure out what they gained from that other than like a shitload of money. But
I can tell you right now.
Hit me, because I'm very curious.
Here's what they're doing. They're stepping in front of the bullet. What they're doing is basically, so do you remember the whole?
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Okay.
Backpack kid with the floss.
Okay. They're trying to basically prevent that from happening again, period. Basically, the pittance that it costs them to purchase Bandcamp, whatever, is going to basically allow them the opportunity to the same thing that other websites have sort of done, to like pretend like they are including creators. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I could see that.
But they're going to have the power. And look, I'm all about it. Like, look, on their side, it makes sense. And on the creator's side, if you look at that as, because kids are literally looking at it as Fortnite and stuff as an opportunity to blow up. You know what I mean? Like, that's their chance to hit a lick. And when Bandcamp, you know, like original music, you know, DJs, and it's a very wide range of things that Bandcamp offers. But now that that's purchased by Epic, that's going to give people in their mind an opportunity to just cut straight to what they want to be in. They want to be in movies. Well, when we were young, I want to get my song on a movie or on a TV show and stuff. Now kids want to get their song on a video game.
Right. Yeah.
And this is literally like, it makes sense because like all the creators and stuff that are making music that are growing up in that culture, and now it's going to be like a symbiotic thing. That's just my viewpoint, personally.
I had not thought of it from that angle. I just thought,
no, you know what this
big
is?
company trying to make big dollar.
You guys remember Hollywood Records?
I do.
Simon Says, remember the older band? I remember that. Like, the whole point was they were going to create a record label that was literally kind of geared towards getting getting bands. Hollywood. It was weird. It was kind of a, because I remember, because I was in a band at that time, and like we're like, oh, that's awesome. You know, this is basically the 2020 version of that. Like, we're basically skipping the middleman, and we're going to basically purchase the company that gives young people that are making, young creators, a chance to put their music in games right away. Just bam, put them together.
I'm okay with that, but it always worries me when something everybody latches onto that becomes the standard gets bought out, because I'm not worried about them buying it. I'm worried about what they're going to change. And it won't take 5 years for them to change it. There was a time when nobody had a good way to distribute music. And then everybody remembers the Napster days back 20 years ago. Then MySpace became a thing. So now a band can put their music online and people can hear it for the first time.
Yeah.
Bandcamp was the first platform to fully distribute high quality music and get paid for it. How many records do we buy on Friday when our Discord server gets blown up by Bandcamp Friday recommendations? The answer is all of the music.
Way too much of it. Yeah.
So now what's going to happen in 5 years when, Bandcamp is going to make some changes that
I don't think we'll have to wait 5 years.
I don't either, but that's what worries me is now, do we want to skip ahead and just look for the next thing, or is it really going to stay the same? Because that's the promise they made. We're going to keep the same formula. We just have more help, more financial help.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only issue I see with that down the road is it doesn't end up being the golden goose that Epic Games thinks that it is, and then they end up dropping it. And then, does Bandcamp continue in some capacity, or do we just create Bandcamp 2 at that point and then just move forward with that? I mean, I think Bandcamp is largely the reason why stuff like Bandcamp and even social media before that is the reason why bands don't have websites anymore. They don't have self-hosted, type of stuff, because it is an all-in-one, encompassing place where they can sell their music. And a lot of the times, do you think we're still going to get Bandcamp Fridays and stuff like that, where we
better get Bandcamp Fridays?
I think if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think like a lot of companies, they're swinging in and kind of taking over larger, smaller companies. They're not going to screw with the recipe. You don't buy Coke and mess with the recipe.
Are you sure about that?
I do. I think they're not going to screw. What they're going to do is they're going to kind of do new things with their new toy. They're not going to screw with it. They're going to make. Okay, let's say you buy Coca-Cola. You're not going to screw with Coca-Cola or Diet Coke. What you're going to do is you're going to make Coke ice cream. You see what I'm saying?
Ooh.
I know it's a shitty example, but they're not going to mess with the moneymaker. What they're going to do is that someone over there has a vision for what they could do, and they're going to do, but they're not going to stop. Why screw with what's already a successful? You know what I mean? Because
somebody's going to look at it and say, "How can we cut cost and thus make more money?"
Well, that'll happen. Yeah, but that's what you're talking about. If it doesn't do what they think it will in the next couple of years, that's what will happen. It's either gonna it's either basically going to be the next big thing, or it will be the next. What's the video service that literally is already gone? That Kevin Hart had a show on and stuff. Remember?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Or the next Snapchat, or not Snapchat. Well, you know what I'm talking about? It'll be the next thing that someone buys and they thought they could do something, or it will be and it'll be that stepping stone from the indie artist to the corporate level. You know what I mean? It'll basically allow corporations an opportunity to bypass record labels, bypass management, bypass lawyers, all that jazz. And it'll basically give EA, which is a giant corporation, or is it Epic Games? Sorry, not Epic Games. Excuse me, not EA.
It's easy to blame EA. I know.
Well, I'm old, so and oh god, EA. Anyway, but as long as they're not. Well, anyway, so but you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that. Basically, they're just hey, all the middlemen and record labels, and we want to get a Deftones song. We'll just get the next Deftones guy that's on Bandcamp, and great. You know what I mean? That's what they're doing, and it's either going to work or it won't. And if it doesn't, it's a tax write-off. And you know what I mean? And it's sad that that's the way things are. But God, dude, if I feel so bad for artists, if they think that they're anything but a write-off, it sucks.
I just want to see artists get their due. That was my favorite thing about Bandcamp, was that it was always about the art. It might still be, today, all about the artists and all.
I never felt that way. Even being an artist who has music on Bandcamp, I never felt that they cared about me.
Link in the show notes. But yeah,
No one wants to listen to my lo-fi trip hop project.
All right,
should hear our lo-fi trip hop project.
Yeah, you should. Hey, you guys heard that new Goblin Shark single?
I did see that. Speaking of goblins, that the guitar player from Necrogoblicon is now playing and touring with Avril Lavigne.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that?
Make that money.
Dude, hell yeah. How many, and this is going to go to our later conversation. How rad is it that how many guys and gals, how many people from our scene in the time period, especially we're going to be talking about later, have gone on to do like legit capital letters, big things.
Oh yeah, and yeah, I definitely want to get into that because once we start throwing out names like Esocaris and
but even bigger than that, like like, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I know,
crazy. It's really crazy. Like legitimately, like every once in a while, at least once a year, I will hear a name that rings a bell that is connected to like someone top 40 or something, and I'm like, oh snap, like really? I'm not like surprised, but I'm like, hell yeah, dude, keep like go,
yeah, go get it, go get that, go get what you had to grind to get.
Thank you, exactly, because like no one better than someone from that scene to finally make it, because dude, if you were willing to eat the amount of shit we had to eat, like especially people our age, and that time frame where like, whoo, man, like you deserve it. Like if you make it, then I'm not one of those guys that's going to begrudge anyone a chance to be like successful, especially in art. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, let's get into it. The topic of tonight, you guys know I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about early sort of metalcore, or as we used to call it, metallic hardcore, although we didn't really even call it that. We just kind of called it like bands.
Yeah.
We didn't really like.
Well, it was funny because when we first started talking about like having this particular conversation, I think we probably bandied it back and forth at least 30 different names for this.
Oh yeah,
genre.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we just can't say metal, is hilarious.
Well, it's just because I don't know if you've ever been on the Metal Archives. Those guys are the reasons why we're not allowed to call it metal, right?
This is not metal. This is punk rock with guitar playing.
This is not metal. Yeah.
My neck beard is not quite developed enough to allow me to determine that.
Oh, I got you, fam. I mean,
I can see some skin. I'm sorry, Dan.
I call myself Disgust Metal Dan. And I have a neck beard, so I think I'm the most qualified to tell you.
I see skin. I'm sorry, I see skin.
You can see some more skin later. Hit me up on Snapchat. Anyway,
the OnlyFans after the podcast tonight.
Hey, there's a whole section on like dad bods on OnlyFans. I think that honestly, if the podcast thing doesn't work out, I think this is the way to go.
Dude, let's do it. Let's go.
Let's
do like a calendar, like dad bod, post-hardcore dad bods.
There you go. Let's do that right now.
They're like, I'm not sure if he's
everybody sign off. We're gonna go do that.
I'm not sure if he's winking or if he had a diabetic stroke.
Perfect. Well, and we went back and forth, tons of names of bands, and one of the. I know that there is a little bit of an age disparity in whenever I started listening to this kind of music versus you guys, and so it's interesting to see where the perspective is. So I guess should we define terms? I don't even want to define terms. I just want to talk about bands. As far as metalcore or a mixture of hardcore and metal. What was, I'm going to start with Joel, cause I think his answer is going to be the most interesting. Andy's the guest. What got you into this, to sort of this scene, this genre of music?
So, age wise, I'm 45. I turned 46 later this year, whatever. Mid 1990s was when, I guess early 1990s was when I was introduced to metal. The first two metal bands I remember experiencing were Metallica and Iron Maiden. As a middle school kid, and then the next sort of after that would have been, like Slayer and things. Rush. I know it sounds weird to say that, but just. As a young kid, but at the same time I was introduced to Slayer, I also was introduced to bands like Minor Threat, Black Flag, things like that. And I was like, just trying to absorb all this. Okay. This is just as a young kid. Okay. And then I keep going through my high school career, blah, blah, blah. High school, whatever. Pick up music, start playing bass and guitar and everything. And then shortly after high school, I'm introduced to like a very different, so I'm from Texas, especially at the time I lived in the Dallas Fort Worth area, Dallas, Texas, not New York, not LA, not Miami, not like one of the big centers of like, music that we think of. But here in this area, we had, we did have a pretty big metal scene, between New Orleans, because I also lived in New Orleans as well, with bands, Dead Horse and things, Pantera, things like that. Like we actually did have a lot of like really groovy heavy metal type things, and then I started to discover I think one of the first metalcore to throw that name out there, just basically a band that like played heavy metal with hardcore sensibilities would be Earth Crisis. That was that was probably my first. Because I thought about it a lot this last week, especially, man. I was like, man, is there like I was trying to think like before EC, like who? Honestly, like Earth Crisis is probably the first like hard metalcore, just hardcore band metalcore. If we say metalcore, we're amongst friends, But I think
you can say metalcore on the show.
It's not a dirty word here.
So, yeah, but what I'm saying? Like I think honestly, Earth Crisis, 1995, 6 was it 90? I'm trying to think. Oh man, I looked it up earlier. I'm trying to remember when Firestorm came out. I'm sure you pull it up while I'm talking, but like Earth Crisis, Firestorm, like that time period when it came out, like because it did so much more for me than like Agnostic Front did, or like some of these other hardcore kind of bands like the bands that I dug, I thought were cool. When Earth Crisis came out, though, they were like speaking to a different, because I grew up, I loved metal, and then all of a sudden here's this band that's got hardcore, like, like Agnostic Front, like, and like Sick of It All vibes with metal riffs and like, since, man, that like, it just basically bridged that gap between what I was missing and what I needed in my life. And like, I dove headfirst into it after that. But I would say Earth Crisis. Yeah, Earth Crisis.
Earth Crisis is a good place to start for sure. I think that we did Earth Crisis. When did we do the Earth Crisis episode? Joe,
I need to listen
do you
to that.
remember?
Sometime within the last 260 episodes.
Gotcha. Cool. Thanks for that. Thank you for that very precise answer. Go back and listen to that. I will warn you though, it starts off basically us just doing Bane voices because we're all talking. Right before we started recording that episode, we like thought it'd sound super dope if we talked into cups to sound like Bane. So, there was a lot of, in order to listen to Earth Crisis, you must, a lot of that. And then we came up with the idea that one of these days we're going to talk about the band Bane in the Bane voices the entire time, because we figured that'll piss everyone off. Earth Crisis is definitely, and of course I would love to be like a cool guy with some kind of credibility and say like, oh yeah, I got started with Earth Crisis too. I did not. I started off, I was oh God, let's see. What year, Joe? How far back do we go? I think Joe's gone. But it's one of those, cool. Now this show's really getting started.
I just noticed my username. I did not thought that would be on it, but hey,
amazing.
In case,
but anybody that's wondering,
if you have a heartbeat, hit me up.
Hell yes. No, I definitely started off listening to all those like Christian bands. Because at the time, so like I grew up. I don't really get into this too much, so this is going to be me telling my life story. But I grew up in a Pentecostal church.
Okay.
And so we didn't do.
And just so people, Indiana is still back then.
It's St. Louis.
Okay, Midwest.
Yeah. So same location. So it was. We grew up Pentecostal, and we were like really really like fringe, right wing Pentecostal, where we didn't listen to rock music, we didn't watch television. Sister couldn't cut her hair, men had to cut their hair. It was all kinds of stuff that I don't have to get into here, but essentially, so like I was a little bit stunted, in my musical growth. So like in the 90s, that was like most of the 90s for me was going to church, you know, with my family and not being allowed to do anything, you know. You come home with Ninja Turtle toys, you know, it's satanic, get out of it. So like to get into this kind of music is kind of a weird anomaly for me, because I started off listening to, like, I listened to my dad's Black Sabbath records that he still had in the house for whatever reason, and let me listen to, but told me I couldn't listen to it if my mom was around.
Instead of Penthouse Under the Bed, it was Black
Sabbath records, right? Yeah. So, you know, my sexual development was stunted as well in that regard, because, you know, well, they're secrets.
You want to hear double tracked Ozzy vocals and already get hard.
Absolutely, 100%. Still do it. That's why I love earbuds. Thank you, earbuds. Anyway, so we, you know, like, so I think it was like Joe really was really influential starting off for me, because he would, like, you know, like make me copies of stuff that, you know, like Nirvana tapes and like, you know, Nirvana and Metallica, you know, stuff like that. So I got really into that sort of stuff. And then I went into much greater detail about this on Brian Patton's As the Story Grows, where I was talking about like the early days of like what I was listening to. And basically, like, a girl broke up with me in high school. And by that point, we were out of church and we were out of all that stuff or whatever. And I had internet access, and I ended up hearing Ravage Ritual by Zayo.
Oh,
and I was like, it was like a bomb went off in my head. You know what I mean? I was just like, oh my God, like this is the thing that I have been searching for.
Do you want me to bring it out?
You know? Oh yeah. I'll just a minute. I'm going to have him explain that. So no, this is good. This is a good story. I heard Ravage Ritual by Zayo, and I was just gone. I mean, like, after that, I went, like, I found the record label, you know, Salt State Records, and I went, you know, full bore into shit like Embodiment and Society's Finest, and you know, like bands that had, because I was really obsessed for a long time with that, like, growled vocal. And then eventually I got into how
skinny he was.
Oh man, yeah. This is corner. This is This is.
Look at everyone with their arms crossed. Look at that. Everyone with their arms crossed. How hilarious,
dude! That mic motion where he's got his arm down by his waist. I did that like all the time, like in that when I was singing. Yeah. So like,
best. You grate cheese on that dude's abs right now.
That's awesome.
Have you seen? Oh my God! Have you seen what he looks like now?
I have not.
Okay, I'm gonna see. Oh, go ahead and keep talking.
Yeah, so we had so, you know, like, I got really, really into those bands, and like a good friend, I basically forced Joe to get into those bands too. Like, he didn't have a choice, because like at the time I had the car, and so if we wanted to go somewhere, I had to drive, and he listened to what I listened to, and like, this is like old school, right? So like,
all right, dude, hold this laptop. Let me pull up my Windows Media Player.
Yeah, dude, we were like pirating, you know, tons of music at that time, and so like, and by we I mean me. So if you need to send the cops over, just have them arrest me. Joe had nothing to do with it. But yeah, I had all these MP3 files on my laptop, and I just threw them out there, and we'd listen to them driving around town. But yeah, I got really, really, really into that stuff. But I also have had, because I had that stunted growth, like, I didn't get to experience a lot of this stuff in real time. So I had to kind of go back, you know. So like at my first Cornerstone, I bought like probably like $400 worth of like cassettes and shit, you know, like.
Wait, what year was your? I mean, what year was that?
2003.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. So it was a little after the boom, right?
Yeah.
But like, I'm finding out about all this. So like, I'm listening to Bow by Focused for the first time, you know, in 2003. It's like wild, you know what I mean? Like, well, because they had it all
like 5-6 years. Yeah.
Well, they had it all on, because they had all cassettes, like old tooth and nail cassettes. So I got like Focused and Overcome, and you know. And
here's the thing too. People need. I listen. Like I had to talk about, my daughter's 15. We had to talk earlier too, like sort of about how people don't understand what the world was like before social media or the internet as we know it. Like, literally, like, there was a time period when you heard about a band and you would send $10 in the mail, hoping that in a month or 6 weeks you would get a cassette or a CD of said band
or VHS tape.
Oh, dude, no, that was way more.
In 2000,
like $50, bro.
In 2003, I sent a handwritten letter to Jesse Smith, and he sent me back a bunch of Zayo stickers. You know what I mean? Like that's how you do it. You know what I mean? That's that was the only way to get cool stuff back then. Because like if you look at those old records, they all have like mailing addresses and shit.
And it was someone's mom's house.
Yeah. So
that's the thing. Like none of us back then used a PO box. It was like someone's legit house. That literally half of them. Look at Russ. Oh my god. Oh, look at Skinny Dan. Oh my god, this is hilarious. But yeah, none of us. We would like half of us would move away. Can you imagine like the asshole that lived in the house after we moved out?
Right. Why do I keep getting all this damn band mail? Like what
is this? What is this bullshit?
End of Destiny? What?
Who is Daniel Terry, and why does he keep writing letters to society's finest? You know, like it's one of those like weird things. But like, yeah. I got full into it, and I didn't even realize at the time because, like you said, no social media, not really a whole lot of web. Like some of these bands still had band pages that were up, but there wasn't anything that like. I didn't even know what bands I was listening to that were still together. Like, when can I go see this band? Or, when can I get, and the answer was Cornerstone. That was the only place that I could go to see a lot of those bands.
So that was the only answer.
Yeah. To make a long story short, that basically was my introduction to it. And I got really excited about it because at the time I thought that like I was the only person that liked it. And obviously every other kid in America had the exact same reaction because a couple of years later, it became like the big, cool thing to do. I mean, by 2005 it was already huge, and bands were signing to majors and having like lots of pretty poppy choruses in their stuff and but I mean you gotta again make that money though, right? Always make the money. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got started with it. And so like a lot of the bands that I'm going to talk about tonight that are older, it is purely like I got into it after the fact and then ended up doing a bunch of, internet sleuthing and stuff like that until I could know stuff. And in case anybody doesn't know, that's how you get a podcast like Discography Discussion, where I have all this knowledge and know where to go with it. Right. Yeah. They are not be able to, and now, now, a few years later, now all of a sudden we're like, call ourselves music critics and we get super judgy of like everything that we listen to. But, Joe, what about you? Or is it just that I forced you to listen to it?
It started with Dan forced me to listen to it. Dan skipped the beginning of that story where he fell into harder music accidentally. The actual beginning of that story was somebody gave him a copy of Bleach, not knowing it was the Nirvana Bleach. So...
Oh, did you think it was the Christian band Bleach?
I didn't, but the person that bought it for me did think that it was.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a name I haven't associated like with. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So take that very early Nirvana punk influenced insanity. It's not that hard to draw a line to hardcore, metalcore later on, because what he liked was not the guitar. Dan is way into the lyrics. So what does he love about that early Nirvana? Anytime Kurt would just scream for no reason and just make this ridiculous noise.
Yep.
So now he's listening to Norma Jean and Zayo, and the rest of us are listening to all the new metal, all the late 80s thrash and heavy metal. It was a sensory shock because it was new to my ears to hear guitars play that way. I was still stuck on this is how the bass and the drums and the guitar work together to create an interesting, heavy song. Early hardcore from this guy, throw it out the window. It's all about the dissonance and making the shrieking, shattering sounds that sound like the band being thrown down the stairs, not just the drummer.
We almost got into like straight up fights, not fist fights, but we got into arguments because like we were in this band that sounded like Linkin Park, basically without the rapping, right?
And not that good.
And not that good, yeah. But like, so I was like doing all the singy vocals and all that stuff, and then
wait, you were doing the clean singing?
Yeah,
some of it.
Yeah, once
upon a
time.
Swoopy hair?
No, I wasn't a good clean singer.
The hair just goes straight out, man.
You had swoopy hair, really? Did you have frosted tips?
No, I've got curly mop head. Like,
you've seen my
massive fro.
You've seen my sideshow Bob fro, right?
Oh, yes, I have.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So
I was about to send you a picture because, like, I'm afraid to at the same point.
Right, that's fine. I'm just gonna post it all over all your stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I got into all that stuff, and yeah, I would argue with Joe because Joe would play like this like badass new metal riff, right? Like that I would probably love now, but like at the time, I was like, dude, I've been listening to Zao for 2 weeks, so like now I know every word, right. So I'd come over there and I'd be like, dude, I remember going over to his house. I was like, dude, hear me out, all heavy all the time. You know, and he's like,
I'm down, but the definition of heavy was not normal.
Like, I've been listening to Zao for 2 weeks. I know what we got to do. Like that. I know.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah.
Dude, yeah. Because you literally thought like, it's okay. It's like literally like, okay, hey, guess what? I know we're heathens. Someone gave me the Bible.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not talking about religion. I'm just talking about how you felt when you first got that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, I thought I knew what I thought I wanted to do with music.
Nope, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can tune to drop C.
Yes, we can.
You don't even have to in Little Rock.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything. You just literally just get up there and just make the screechy noise with your guitar, and you're good to go.
Yeah,
you know.
Let me introduce you guys to the alternating triads.
so much good.
And if you've got more than one guitarist in the band, oh shit! You can make massive dissonant triads.
You can absolutely have up to 3, but like literally no more than that.
Speaking of, like the dude who had a band who like literally would get the other guitar player. It didn't matter if he was bad or not. It's just, were you willing to like go on the road? Great.
Yeah.
Like, we just need you to do power chords while the other guy does the interesting shit.
I don't think I'd kill this guy after 2 weeks. So it's like, yeah, let's go. Yeah, he's perfect. Give him a guitar, duct tape it to him. It'll be fine.
Do you not have a debilitating IV drug problem? Then yes, go on the road with this.
Yes, let's go right now. There's, there are capped rooms, that are like, there's going to be like 9 people there, and like,
isn't that hilarious? Yeah, that's hilarious. So how like literally just like adding a second guitar player was like a huge deal. Like,
it was ascension. Yeah. Yeah, you would ascended to a new plane of existence because, like, listen to all the new cool stuff that we can do.
Everyone you knew that could play was already in a band, and they weren't about to leave their band,
right?
There was this weird territoriality.
Explain that bass.
Oh, okay. So
that bass.
This is the bass.
This bass, which has been stolen and returned to me thanks to my friend Jake, who's done some of my tattoos. This was actually it was originally it's got a funny story because it was ordered by, like, I guess George Strait's bass player here in, at the time, like in the early 90s or whatever, and I bought it from Ape Music here in Fort Worth, like, anyway, for a great, because basically I guess he'd ordered it and then never picked it up. And I remember going in and playing. I was like, this thing is amazing. I played it, like, whoa, and I knew that they couldn't sell it because it wasn't like a Fender or something, a big brand. And I got it for a great deal. I recorded the first like 2 Society's Finest records with it, that thing. And then when Zao, when they got signed to Tooth and Nail Solid State, I can't remember if it was already Solid State at the time.
It was already Solid State. So Splinter Shards was also.
But it was before we got signed as Societies. I was actually already doing Society's Finest, and I went out to Little Rock to hang with those guys because basically it was really Jesse's sort of like baby, and then Russ was in the band, and then Dan was in the band, and they were they kind of had the formation that would be like the classic Zao, I guess, if you
the core
yeah. And I was talking to them about like playing bass with them, and I brought my gear out to Barry's and stuff, and like I was going to kind of work with them some, and they wanted to be at the time though, they were like, well, we need you to move out to Western PA and stuff, and I was like, we talked about it, but like in the end, it just wasn't like a good fit. Like I don't think on either one of our parts, like, because I was really into what Society was doing, and like I didn't really want to move. I'd started dating who would eventually become my wife and stuff, and like it just wasn't. But they recorded the entire Blood and Fire record with that bass right there, and it's funny because like it got stolen after show, and then like 10 years later got returned to me, and the fact that I still have it after like 20 years now is hilarious to me.
So it's cursed. Like if you try to get, it's cursed. So if
it
you try
probably
to get
is. If you try to take it, it's cursed. But but
it's like the monkey's paw of hardcore instruments.
But yeah, oh man. But no, like it's I mean, it's a great. I still use it like at church and stuff like that and everything. But like, no.
Yeah, I feel you.
Dudes, yeah. But Brett, Brett was actually, just so you know, between Brett and Russ, I think Brett was the only person that actually played bass on the record.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I always wondered who actually picked up the bass.
Yeah, Brett just basically he just dealt because like I was actually gonna try to play some stuff and like we actually were sitting down and writing stuff and all that. But I was just like once we kind of like I kind of knew like a few days into it, like I was like I'm not gonna move to up there with these guys. It just you know what I mean? Like but Brett ended up playing all and he's of course a fucking fantastic musician. So
yeah, good for real.
Yeah, it's not like they had poor Brett play. It's no, dude's a fucking great musician. So
yeah,
I think he's proven that.
Yeah, he definitely has had an illustrious career since.
Yeah, he's another dude that I think like someone. Yeah, you could easily do like a 2-hour video just on his post metal career. You know, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
dude,
for sure.
Well,
let's you know, as people criticize me too much on this show for making everything a Zayo discussion.
It all starts with Zayo. I'm sorry.
I mean, it does for me. That's my origin point,
and consequently for the rest of us.
And obviously, so like listening to stuff like Zayo, you know, gave birth to stuff like, you know, Living Sacrifice, but that was all like that. So you had that whole Christian scene.
Living Sacrifice was around long before Zayo, bro.
For me.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got
for
you.
Me. I know Living Sacrifice.
You discovered LS after. Okay, I got you. No,
I could do an additional 4 hours on Living Sacrifice,
right?
If you want. You know,
especially pre-haircut Living Sacrifice. Ooh, DJ.
Are we revisiting that band again?
So I actually drove out to Little Rock. I guess probably like 5 or 6 months ago. It was right before they went to Furnace and played. And dude, DJ was full on long hair again. It was great, dude. He got up there and they sang a Sepultura. He sang a Sepultura song with him.
I know the show you're talking about. I didn't go, but like it's 5 hours. Remember, like
that's what my wife said, and I was like, I'm just gonna go. Well, it's one of those weird things where like DJ.
And I don't drive, so
DJ sent me a flyer for the show like a month or two before it happened, and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. If I have time, I'll drive down and do that. And then so like that morning, I'm like having a garage sale out front. And like my kids are like running the garage sale like for me. They're like taking people's money and doing all the things. And I get a text from DJ and he's all like, "Yeah, man, I'm really excited about the show tonight." And I was like, "Oh shit, I completely forgot about that." And I called my wife and I was like, "Okay, how mad would you be if as soon as you get home?" She was at work. I was like, "As soon as you get home, I'm going to leave and drive to Little Rock and go see Living Sacrifice. But I'll totally be home in the morning." And yeah,
how far is that from where you, I mean, is it
6 hours?
Okay, yeah, about the same,
something like that. It wasn't too bad. Hey, I had a great time. Got to eat
Vino's
calzones at Vino's. Yeah, it was really good. Fun time. But yeah, Living Sacrifice is obviously for an offhand comment, but yeah, but I had heard Zayo first. That was the whole thing.
Understood.
Yeah. So so there was that whole Christian scene happening, kind of on its own. But then, you also, this style doesn't just like begin and end there. I think that the Christian scene definitely popularized it more. That's why there's so many metalcore bands out there that are all like, we are doing this for the Lord, like that sort of thing. It is all kind of from
with that mentality, like us against the world.
Right.
And it helped perpetuate the style's popularity. Now you have more and more bands that on their own would not be accepted because they were in no way unique, but because you're in the fight with the rest of us, you get to be on the show. You get to show up at whatever festival and have 10,000 bands play who are effectively doing the exact same thing. And it's fine.
Yep. Yeah, it totally was. But then, the origins of this style, because I don't want people to tune in and be like, oh God, it's only going to talk about Christian bands and unsubscribe. This style obviously goes back even much further than that.
Sure,
obviously with bands like Earth Crisis, even like Converge's early stuff. You've got your
Turmoil.
Yeah, Turmoil.
Dude, I don't think people understand how important Turmoil was to like the sound especially the like 2000 to 2010. I don't think people understand how important Turmoil was to like what became sort of like what we think of as modern metalcore.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's like a lot of the times people will point and be like, these are originators. Turmoil was the first one that I heard that I was like, okay, I can see this.
Yeah.
Like I can see this kind of blended, because a lot of the times people would be like, oh, you need to go check out X band. I listen to it. Like, it's just a hardcore band, like Jersey, basketball jersey, straight in your face, hardcore. And of course, back then I didn't know anything. Not saying that I really know anything now, but
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but it was definitely like, I was like, oh, it's just hardcore bands. Turmoil was the first one. I was like, okay, yeah, I could see kind of the gap here. And I could see that even in, especially for me, was like early cave-in stuff.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Well, so yeah, but Until Your Heart Stops. I remember Until Your Heart Stops coming out, and you and I actually talked about this because that was a huge influence on our full first length album. Like, I remember hearing Until Your Heart Stops and being able to like, so wait, you can do that? Like,
yeah,
because you got to think as a teenager, you think you're putting these boxes. As much as we like to think we're like, oh, I'm a free thinker. No, as teenagers, especially in the scenes we are brought up in, you're supposed to be in this box and this box. I remember Until Your Heart Stops and being like, wait, you can do that? What? And then, oh yeah, dude, absolutely, 100,000%.
That's my favorite thing about the early metalcore is it changes your perception of what you can do creatively. Saying that for myself earlier, I was sensory overloaded, because going from your 80s heavy metal, this is how you write a riff, to no, just make noises. It was a lot closer to old school bands who could play together. The band's job was to create one cohesive sound that might not be appealing the first time you hear it, but once you realize what it takes to play together, it sets it apart.
Definitely. Like it absolutely. What I liked about that, Until Your Heart Stops stuff was that shit,
so much.
I like that they basically took like whatever the rules were of traditional song structure and just threw them out the window. Just like set it on fire. It's gone. There's no more like, okay, verse, chorus, verse, bridge, like anything like that. Because like even your like badass death metal bands and stuff like at the time would still be following like some sort of basic formula. You can go back and listen to old Cannibal Corpse stuff, and it's like follows that sort of like, okay, these are the rules. With metalcore, what I liked is that almost every band, and this is very true in the beginning, not so much later on, but in the beginning, all the bands sounded uniquely different from one another because they were all trying to do something that hadn't really been done before.
The opposite of popular.
Well, yeah, and it was hit or miss, right? Because like, obviously, like famously, we did do an episode on Society's Finest, and we didn't, we were a little, like, I didn't really prefer this, or I liked this, or I didn't like this about it. But I think the unique thing is, and actually Josh from Society's Finest commented on this too recently, and he said like, hey man, we were just doing what we thought we could, like we were just coming up with, and of course I was like, dude, you don't have to explain it to me or justify it to me,
well, you were there.
Yeah, it's literally one of those, like, everybody was trying to, like, what is our unique sort of angle? Where are we going to hit this from to where people are going to be like, this is the sound of our band? And that's so hit or miss. You have to throw a whole bunch of stuff at the wall and ultimately decide on what you're happy with.
I agree 100%, man. Like, No, but like I think just kind of sort of pushing the conversation forward, even like when let's move on to Cave In, bands like that, sort of like Cave In, Snapcase, Dead Guy, like that. So we're sort of like, I guess like mid late 90s, like 97, 98, 99. There were some bands doing some things at that time, bro, that like, when you look back, you're like, where did that come from? Like, how did you create the sound? Like, especially when I think about like the first Botch album. I'm sorry, I say first, but We Are the Romans, Botch, and
the Botch album,
the Botch record.
Thank you. You guys know what I mean, and or Dead Guy, Fixation on a Coworker, things like that. I mean, I look at some of those, I'm like, dude, where did that come from? Like what were you like? What 30 bands were you listening to that made you put out that album?
Yeah, like where did you guys come from the future? And you're like, we're just gonna play this. Not like I never saw any real build up to it. And I think that's the unique thing about that style is that like
one of the bands that I mentioned in our first conversation, sort of about doing this podcast, was Acacia.
Yeah.
Not the Acacia string.
No, I know.
But I know, but there's a lot of people who are just like, well, okay, there was a band called Acacia on Victory Records that like put out one record that was freaking fantastic. I mean, it was just insane, dude. And like it literally came out of nowhere and then they disappeared.
Yeah, it's gone.
But that could happen.
Fucking legends. Yeah.
But that could happen pre-social media, which is the whole concept of our conversation. Is like, think about all these bands that happened kind of, pre 2005 ish, that like set the mold for everything to come when social media was there, MySpace, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that, when all that stuff sort of like, gave artists an opportunity to go from nothing to go from 0 to 100. All the bands that we do before that like were dead and gone already. Like Minus is another example.
Well, and it's funny because you say that pre social media because you look at a guy like me, admittedly got into this stuff later on, right? Yeah. I'm not going to be able to find anything on Acacia.
No, right? No, hell no.
Unless I just happen to find a record in the
wild. Donuts.
Yeah. Hey, Donuts. Joe and I's first band was called Jelly Donut. But it's interesting though, because like I can't find anything on that band. It's not like I can go back and do like deep Wikipedia research, right? The only bands that we really know of are the ones that are still around, or bands that maybe like at some point signed to a major or around long enough for the advent of that sort of thing. And it's actually really disheartening because there's a lot of bands that were just kind of left out in the cold, so to speak, and they could have been really cool bands. They could have been the innovative sort of spark into something else, something newer. But unfortunately, only a few people are ever going to hear it. Oh yeah, from Sweden.
Like how if those guys would have been 5, maybe 10 years later, they'd be literally one of the biggest rock bands in the world.
Agreed.
I'm sorry. That one EP alone let me know that they had the talent to do whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And the fact that Brandon or I don't know if it was Brandon or if it was, like any of the guys, Roy, I don't know who got them on a Solid State, but like whoever got them, that EP, dude, come on. Like if that would have come out like 5 years later on Trust Kill or like on, Victory or something, like just literally 5 years on, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, their first EP was phenomenal.
Well, that's the only thing they had, right?
They had 2 albums.
Oh, really?
Yeah, over the course of their career. That's all good. No, that's how I heard it. The first album's really good and really unique.
Really, yeah, those 2 albums they had. Yeah.
Yeah, they just.
It's live. Sorry.
Yeah, it's live. Everybody knows. But yeah, we I got really into that. I got really into Self-Minded, and I also and even like Blindside's early records were like weird and different.
I'm so glad you brought them up, dude.
There you go. Look at Joe. He's like,
that was the breaking point for me. I didn't get it. Then he played King of the Closet, and I was like, okay, I get it now. I get it. That was just enough melody there to break through my brain. Like, I get it now.
Well, yeah, but they were just weird. Like they're recorded like the production quality is like sandpaper. Listening to those records, like there's nothing, and that's what I like about it. I like the garage sort of the garage sound of it.
I think they're like they're from Sweden. They're like it's Northern European sensibility because they came up probably listening to pop music up there. But then also you got to think about the metal influence from up there as well. Is like weird, and you get blindsided out of that, you know?
Yeah. Well, and then there were all the bands that kind of like were huge staple in the scenes. Like you had like Esocaris, who was like never huge, by any stretch of the imagination, but should have been, yeah. Because the record they put out is so good. Like,
best opening line of any hardcore record of all time. Born with the Future, like that when they had that intro and come, like, I'm sorry, like I still think that you play that for a teenager right now and they'd be like, I want to just smash something.
Well, yeah, and that's the timelessness of some of that stuff too. Like, and even some of like the Training for Utopia stuff. What's interesting too is that like it's fun seeing
Focal Point. Talk about Training for Utopia.
Yeah, Focal Point. Yeah, dude. If I ever have Ryan Clark on the podcast, I'm going to introduce him not as Ryan Clark from Demon Hunter, but I'd be like, you may know him from his band Focal Point. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, he'll probably
a small Sacramento, California band. I mean, that was. I remember, but it was hilarious because Focal Point and having a Focal Point patch on my backpack was one of the ways I got in to see Deftones and Far, like on that first Deftones tour.
Oh wow!
Because I had a patch on my thing, and they're like, "Oh, you know what Focal Point is?" I was like, "Yeah, man." And they're like,
"Come in."
Yeah, dude. They're like, "Oh," because it's hilarious. Like that, like so far, like so that whole first, the first Adrenaline. When they did that first tour, Far wasn't officially on the tour. They just actually showed up and followed the Deftones.
Oh wow!
Like the Deftones basically were like, yeah, they're opening act, but they said not one club on the entire tour called them on their bullshit.
Yeah, that is weird.
That's hilarious, dude.
Yeah, here's just this other band.
They're like, yeah, they're opening act. Okay, fine, because Deftones are like, signed to Maverick and all this, and they're like, sure. They said not one club at the entire 3-month tour or whatever it was said no. Like they're just like, and they basically just run this tiny. It was hilarious because Deftones with this big ass bus and Far on this little van, tiny Econoline van.
Yeah,
like the rest of us, yeah.
Right. I used to drive one of those for work, but
they're very efficient when you got to move a lot of people from point A to point B.
Yeah,
free candy.
It's so cool. We used to travel around for the few out of town shows that we played. We traveled around in a. What color was that van? I think Ryan actually still has that van. I think I saw it in the garage.
90s blue, and you know exactly what I mean when I say that.
Yeah,
90s blue,
like those, like the old office coffee cups and plates and stuff like that.
Yes,
that blue. But yeah, it was definitely and I remember I luckily found out about Esocaris before I found before I even knew about Norma Jean. I had no idea that Corey was going to go do
Ludicrous.
Yeah, because it was Ludicrous back then. Yeah, and so because I
was extremely confusing in St. Louis.
LUTI-KRISS.
The Ludicrous.
Just so everyone knows, it's not Ludicrous the rapper with a D, but it was L. Right? Am I correct in the spelling?
L-U-T- you are correct. Yeah, LUTI-KRISS.
And I wish that I should have hit up Eric Shirey, because they put out all that stuff and
we could have got him.
I know. We call him right now, but yeah,
let's call him. Maybe he's in the shower.
He's probably
Eric, come here. We need to talk to you about this. It's really important.
Assholes.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, Oh, thank you for putting out so much awesome stuff. He took a big chance on a lot of us back then, dude. Thank you. But anyway, yeah, but Ludicrous was a Ludic. Because I wish I could. Daniel was the original. I'm trying to remember all the original. It's so weird because you have the we're talking about Esocaris. We're talking about Norma Jean, and it's weird to think. I go sort of think about because during the time Esocaris was a band, Ludicrous was a band as well, and they really don't share a lot other than Corey. I'm trying to think of how many because I'm trying to think of who else was in the band like long term. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that like
I mean, I can just use the internet, but I'm stupid and old.
No, it's all good.
It's sitting there, it's mocking me over there. It's like,
oh, it's all good.
I have all the answers, Joel.
Yeah.
But all you have to do is go to my Google page.
It is interesting though to see like how these bands sort of morphed into other bands. Just like the scene was like so incestuous, at the time. Where it was just like, it was all just call everybody I know.
Dude, we were always, especially my shit band, we were always trying to steal good musicians from other bands. Because like me and Josh were like always trying to find better musicians. Like until once we found Chad, like our drummer, then it was just like, okay, can we find 2 great guitar players? No, like we'd find people and then they just like, okay, well I got married. And like, no, you can't do that.
Give me your phone. Well, it's probably before that. But yeah, let me walk over to the telephone and dial her number and tell her it's over.
It's off.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah, it's over. Yeah, I'm gay now, and I'm going on tour with my gay band friends.
Yeah, and we're all gay. No, it's just like like it was. But bands that would. Well, I mean, especially in that. It's just that scene. Like, well, I mean, look no further than like Strong Arm and Childhood. I mean, things like that. Where it's like basically the same freaking band.
Yeah, in a lot of ways it was.
But at a certain point, also,
I don't tell people that, especially with those bands. People be like, "Man, I love Strong Arm so much," but after Evan, there was no more. And I was like, "Have you listened to Childhood?" Because I mean, you're basically getting a very almost the same experience.
Especially that time period, early. It was very same members. Like honestly, like 4/5, right? Like you're like, Childhood is basically the non-Christian version of Strong Arm.
Yeah, I mean, even the first Childhood record, almost like lyrics read almost like
religious overtones from like Frank Herbert.
Right.
I was like, oh
yeah. That's actually one of my favorite. That first Childhood record.
Good stuff, dude.
Blood Once Nourished from Open Compassion or something like that. Yeah, that is a good record.
Yes, indeed.
One of my absolute favorite. Dude, when we had Matt Fox on, he's like so stoked. Like he went on for like 2 hours. I remember trying to end the interview, and he was like, "Dude, I don't got anything else going on tonight, so like, like let's keep it." So we talked about Muppets for like a half hour. It was it was a lot of fun, but yeah,
and we're moving the conversation a little bit forward in time with just organically,
Yeah,
we've moved to like late 90s all of a sudden. We're talking about Turmoil, Childhood, things like that. I mean,
yeah, and it's weird too because there was a certain period of time where like I felt like as a teenager, at least, I felt like I owned this music. You know what I mean? In the sense of like,
oh yeah.
Like nobody else is ever going to be into this. It's not going to get me any dates. I'm going to have to lie and say
only speaks to me.
Yes, yeah,
and like my 3 single D&D playing friends.
100%. Like we're gonna go out, we're gonna do this. I remember because after we started playing that, like whenever we started playing that kind of music, we went like we played our high school concert one year, and we were like the la 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 band, and then the next year we came back and I was just like and it probably
clean vocals are for
like
pussies.
That.
Oh, dude, you can do much better than that. Come on.
No, I'm not doing it tonight. Actually, I've pretty much lost my ability to do that completely at this point. I'm so sad. Everyone feels sorry for me.
Insert sound.
That's fine. I know all kinds of dudes now in bands. I can just have somebody fill in and just be like, "I'll pay you, $500 if you sing on my record, but I tell everyone it was me."
Hey, that joke's on it. That joke's. That's what
you want to be the Milli Vanilli of metalcore, dude.
Be the Tiger King of metalcore.
Yeah, 100%. I'd be like, yeah, and then somebody's gonna like somebody's gonna pirate one of the songs, and I'm feel like I will never financially recover from this. Oh man, but yeah, like getting into the late 90s and early 2000s. I think early 2000s is interesting too because this is where it starts boiling over to the point where like you had bands that were mostly hardcore influenced doing kind of trying to do their own thing, make their own way, but then like suddenly you started like getting bands.
18 Visions,
Atreyu,
bands are starting to come from the hardcore scene and like having metal success.
Yeah, you get bands like Unearth because like we're a hardcore band, but we play play
Diecast?
guitar solos. Yeah, Diecast. Yeah, I mean it's just
that 2000 2005 period. And again, this is sort of pre-MySpace type stuff, like, but bands are starting to like bubble up and actually make some noise in the mainstream.
Yeah, and it was all due to a bunch of clean vocals. Now,
you say that, but Converge,
had clean vocals, just not the kind you want to hear.
Yeah, but around that time period, I'm talking about time period, like they were one of those bands that kind of like bubble up, around that time period, I mean, of course, that 12 Tribes, which eventually gave Howard his, step up.
Was that Howard?
Yeah, Howard's in 12 Tribes.
12 Tribes? I thought Howard was in Blood Has Been Shed.
You're right. 12 Tribes is the opening act when Blood Has Been Shed. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, I was like, I've seen 12 Tribes a bunch of times.
They're the opening act.
Joel, do you have a fantasy about Howard showing up in 12 Tribes? Like, this is the perfect concert right now.
Look, Howard knows how I feel about him. My ideal dream date would be me and him working out with some protein shakes and just, leg day.
Sounds good. Send pics.
That dude. Like, that's the one thing about running a venue too during that time period is like having met so many of those dudes and like, I miss so many. Anyway, but like, damn it. But yeah, like that time period, man, like you got to think about how many bands like were getting like looks from majors even.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They're like, can we sell this? Can we like, this dude's just growling.
Bring back Cave In.
Yeah.
They got signed to a major.
Well, yeah, but they went like straight alternative.
I know. They went.
Don't get me wrong. I loved it. But
they did the most Cave In thing, right? They get signed to the major, and they're like, guess what? The sound you thought we sound like, now we don't do that anymore.
Yep.
How Cave In is that?
This is Jupiter. Check it out.
Yeah. But like, there's a lot of bands. The Ghost Inside. They eventually became American, but who did they get signed to?
Ghost Inside.
Remember,
weren't they Victory?
But I thought they got signed to a major, and then they got screwed because the whole name thing, and then like. There's like a big deal. Oh, God damn. I shouldn't have brought that up without knowing more. I'm sorry, man. Like,
oh, you're good. They were on Media Scare, and it looks like, that's when they first, that was.
I thought they were signed to someone else too, though. Like,
and Epitaph.
Okay, so Epitaph is a step up from, that whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But then that's when they get hit by the lawsuit, and then like they kind of, their career basically just was like, it's like, instead of they tried to fight it instead of just rolling with it, but whatever.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird, because I remember too, like that the copyright thing or the lawsuit stuff is interesting too, because a lot of one of the biggest things that drew me sort of to the genre, because you remember how I said the first song I heard was Ravage Ritual, right?
Yeah. Hey.
Sound clips, dude. Sound clips from movies. Being all over those records. Here's
a band. I bet you didn't know they got sued for their namesake in another country. Indecision.
You can copyright the word indecision?
No, do you remember the band Indecision?
Remember
he's like an alderman, like the guitar player, right?
Yeah.
But they actually got sued by a band who was a pop band who was already using that name in, I want to say either Canada.
Okay.
It was so weird. Like it was weird because they were like this hardcore metal punk type thing, and they got sued by like this boy band. I guarantee you, look it up. You'll find it. Look it up real quick.
Indecision. The thing weirds me out about it is that like a word like indecision is just like a regular word.
Well, that's what all band names are.
Well, I know
the Doors. It's like,
yeah, well, that's fair. Yeah, I'm still mad that Obituary got to be
my balls.
Obituary.
I don't know. I mean, it's like,
yeah. My
balls are your balls.
We listening to Snot now?
No, we are not listening to Snot.
Dude, I was on listen, I'm gonna go off a tangent right now. I went to the Strangeland tour. It was Snot, Soulfly, Mr. Merengue. I'm trying to remember a couple. You remember that Strangeland, the movie with Dee Snider, right? The horror movie, like
hell yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Snot was one of the openers, like for that show. Like they were like the 3rd out of 7 or whatever bands, or whatever. And then Soulfly was kind of like the headliner because like, it was a big deal. And me and Chris Lindstrom, he went with me to that show. We went together. And I remember seeing Snot, and I thought Snot they stole the show. Like, I was like, this is freaking amazing. And then literally, like, within 6 months, the dude's dead.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest tragedies, and it had so much energy.
Dude, I'm sorry. Like, if you didn't see it, I know people like you hear their music sounds very, very dated now. Well, so does a lot of shit. So does if you listen to some like early Soulfly or like, early.
What do you mean by dated though? Do you mean lack of studio effects and just drum replacement?
Whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, it sounds very late 90s, but like, I'm sorry, but like, if Snot, if you want to go, if his Jeep and his dog, if they want to get hit by the semi within the next 10 years, they're probably one of the biggest rock bands in the world.
They still are, I think.
Man.
Guys that are in the industry always talk about Snot.
I know, but like, just they're one of those bands though that I think that you're just like, what is it, like Squirrel Nut Zippers? Like, they died in that wonderful wreck. The couple guys, like things where the guys like literally just gone. There's nothing left. It's like whoever was the engine behind said band is gone.
Yeah,
all you got was whatever they left. And like,
I mean, look at what happened to Drowning Pool. They were going to be the biggest band in the entire world.
I'm not allowed. I'm actually legally not allowed to comment on that, being from the Dallas area. So
okay. That's fine. All I'm going to say though is, you had a guy that was very.
Dave, all I know is I know how I miss Dave every day, man. So
yeah, and so
bad fucking dude, man. And
dude, you thought we were mean to SoFine.
I'm so,
in our episode.
Here's the thing. And I'm not trying to hijack that. I don't think people outside of the Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, whatever, wherever the area, I don't think people understand what Drowning Pool kind of meant at that time, like around the time that they were like bubbling up, and like when Bodies, everyone knows Bodies, of course. I don't think,
hell yeah,
dude, people. Those guys are so much. First of all, they just had that they only had that one album. And again, they're a great example of what pre-social media kind of left us. Nothing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like a lot of bands nowadays, you just record nonstop. And if me, you, and Joe were to have a band for the last couple of years and we were all dying a plane crash tonight, there would probably be 400 songs recorded on someone's laptop.
Yeah,
I guarantee, dude, especially if that's my laptop.
But bands like run it back 20 years to 2001. Nobody's. I mean, there's whatever we had to tape, for our major label because they had the studio time. That was it. And I don't think people understand like a band like.
I see where you're going with that, because that was still the time when everything was on a 4-track somewhere, and that was probably a cassette 4-track.
A 10-pound 2-inch tape reel.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand too. Like, if you would have seen Drowning Pool in the scene, like, the area I'm from, if you would have gone and seen them at a club show or whatever, you'd probably feel the same way about them. And look, I'm not in love with them and some, but I can't deny the powerhouse that they were in a venue back then, man. God, I mean, if you went into a
and it was a really good record.
But no, I'm not talking about the record, man. If you went and saw them live at a club in that time period, I don't care. If you liked heavy music, you'd walk away a fan. Similar to where, like when people talk about, Pantera pre getting signed, or, like any of these bands they got before they got that, people see like you should have seen them in a club. Well, yeah, you should have. You really should have. And unfortunately, though, that they got signed quick here out of DFW. They got the record, and then unfortunately, within that year, he was dead, and it sucks. But like, man, unfulfilled potential is all I can say.
Yeah,
anyway. Let's move on. I don't want to get
Joe. You got to bring this. You got to bring this conversation
up,
Joe.
Dog.
I got to bring the conversation back up. So I'm going to show more videos of
tight
sweet
jeans.
Hardcore from back in the day.
Choker necklaces.
Everybody loves those choker. Dude, those giant Adidas shirts. I used to wear a giant Adidas shirt everywhere, just like that. Probably the same year. I think this is from. I can only see the dude's butt, so I can't identify the band.
The dude's butt? What? Yeah. Hold on. Who's the Bleach drummer? Bleach one drummer?
I think. Oh, this is Coalesce.
What?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I thought I knew that, but
I told you guys I was going to bring up the conversation.
yeah, man.
Some sort of a pod.
Dude, Coalesce is like, I can't even believe we haven't even mentioned their name.
Thank you.
In this episode.
Daniel.
I mean, Kansas City, they're not exactly local boys to us, but they're as close as we were going to get.
Local enough.
I mean, yeah, these guys were, I
remember doing we did a club in Kansas City and we thought like, oh, this is where Coalesce is from.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's not much else to it than that. Somebody's gonna be like, listen, I just wrote a thesis statement on Kansas City and all of its history. But
shout out to Bubba Spins.
I'm gonna grab something. One second, I'm right back.
Yeah, you're good. Oh man, this Coalesce video is like this is what it was like to see this band back in that time period. You were at someone's house, or you were at, you think about, we were talking about how bands are just good for. I can't think of how many bands I've seen just at someone's house that I thought were cool and then never saw or heard from them again. But yeah, definitely shout out to Bubba Spins, because Bubba Spins died for the house show. They were a house venue in Kansas City, Missouri, or rather in Raytown, Missouri, and eventually. And I remember when Joe and I saw American Standards there. It was actually a really good vibe, just being in the house and all that. But I was always like, man, I bet the neighbors are going to complain, like it's going to become some sort of thing. And unfortunately, that is exactly what happened. They're having this house show and the neighbors complain, and then they end up the city ends up fining this guy like thousands of dollars.
I thought I could find my copy of the Coalesce Get Up Kids split 7-inch.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't. Sorry. I don't want to spend more than I was like, let me run the corner. Hold on. I'm gonna blame my daughter.
So more on with Coalesce, like I was not into them whenever they were around. Just because they weren't broken up by the time, because we
didn't know they were around when they were around.
We didn't know. Yeah.
That's the thing though. Is like you got like so. Okay, so what years are they active? What years are they kind of like mid to late 90s, early 2000s, right?
Yeah, they were definitely. They were around a long time. like 94.
They were getting zero radio play, but they had no videos, right? They had no like.
They didn't have anything. This is like in the late 90s. They were still playing house shows. They'd been around since 94.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Like they were most active between like 94 and 99.
They just and then eventually a punk DIY band all their career.
Yeah. Well, then they started getting notoriety after they had basically like broke up. So they like got it. But then they got back together. The Led Zeppelin 10-inch
that I have, the Nothing New Under the Sun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's so good. But all that kind of came after they were done touring. Like they were done being like a functional band.
Right. And Botch kind of had the same sort of the same sort of run where like what they're doing is so influential to all the bands that came after
10 years ahead of time. Yeah, honestly, and a lot of people talk shit, and a lot of people get mad. Atreyu. I'm so, like, okay, let's keep moving forward in time. We're moving forward in time.
Visions. You mentioned them earlier. It's the same thing.
Okay, listen. So when
I hit the button,
when Society's Finest, the band that was it.
Well, I see.
Now, when we were recording our full length album, like in Little Rock, we drove to Memphis to see 18 Visions do like where it was some garbage venue in the middle. But this was like still baggy jeans, like
yes,
basketball jersey, like 18 Visions. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Bring back the giant pants, Dan.
The real 18 Visions.
Listen, those guys, y'all know how much I love you, but never, ever forget baggy pants, 18 Visions. I refuse to have the image of 18 Visions that I have in my mind be anything other than like just cool scene dudes in Echo pants. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Dude, I wore those pants for years.
But anyway, anyway, but 18 Vision, another great example of a band. And I think they went on to prove though that they knew their shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean they changed up genre, but that doesn't matter. Like their songwriting was always completely rock solid.
Well, their whole thing was they basically got signed to a label that said do whatever you want, and they were like great. And like as they grew as songwriters and they toured and they saw the world, early on they're just like like all of the rest of us.
Yeah, we all did that.
Yeah. After a while, they're just like, man, they saw the world. They went to Europe, they went to Asia and stuff. And they're like, we could do this. And they did. And then boom, and it works. It's like, it's just, I mean, think how, dude, I mean, just we look at bands that are doing, Black Veil Brides and like, what's the band from Scranton? The dude is getting the girl from the tattoo girl. They're from Pennsylvania. Oh my God. Hold on.
We're gonna get to the bottom of this right now.
I'm gonna say this and you'll be like, oh yeah.
I'll be like, sure, that's it. That is a thing.
Whatever band it is, I agree. It is that band.
It's not Ice Nine Kills. It's the other band from Scranton. Oh my God. They dress like corpses and stuff. They're all gothy.
Death Clock?
No.
Oh my
Shut up, Joe.
I feel so stupid. What is the name of the band? They're all, oh my God. I'm going to say this band.
Code Orange?
No, stop it.
All right. Aren't they from? Maybe they're not. No, they're not from. They're definitely not from. Well, they're from Pittsburgh.
Joel's desperate now. He's looking for it. Like, what is the band called?
And they do wear makeup.
They do.
They do now.
Like, oh shit, those dudes. Okay, I feel so stupid.
Tune in next time for the answer to this question.
Anyway, go ahead, keep talking because I'm gonna. I feel
you're
so
good.
dumb.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting to see how like a lot of these bands, Parkway Drive was kind of that way too, where they like started off as one thing, and but they kind of went out and made that money because they had all endured long enough to where
Parkway Drive. That's funny, yeah, dude.
Yeah, I mean, look at what they are now versus their old. They go from cry me a fucking river, bitch, to like playing like. Playing like basically like Metallica Black Album type of stuff, and normally we shit all over that on the show, but sometimes we're totally. Joe's like, I'm here for it.
100%.
Yeah, for me it just depends on what mood I'm in that day. Like, hey, if you're ever in a band and you're listening to discography discussion and I say mean things about your band, I was probably just had a shit day that day.
Sorry,
and I'm taking it out on your recordings from 12 to 15 years ago. Like,
one thing I'm getting out of this conversation tonight.
I got the name of the band.
Okay, what you got, Joel?
What do you got?
Motionless in White.
Motionless in White. Oh my God!
Thank you. I'm sorry.
You both lose 5 points tonight.
Yeah, I'm so stupid. Oh,
I feel bad, but how silly now that because they have that one. What is that song they have about the area code from whatever steel town they're from? They're like, suck our wieners, and they're like, that's an older like back when they were,
yeah.
But now they're like all about the makeup. Anyway, so I'm just
now they're all about the art.
Can we please move on and talk about real bands?
Dude, here's the thing.
Real bands.
One thing I'm getting from this conversation tonight.
Player, let me know.
Hardcore gives us the gift of hindsight. Because how many of these bands did we find later, long after they're gone, and it's all good?
I mean, I don't know if it's all good, but it is good.
I know that Turmoil is amazing, and I think that anyone that is currently listening to this podcast, if anyone that's listening to this particular use, it takes away of any of the bands we're talking about. One of the let's say if we could do a top 10 bands from the time period we're talking about, 100,000%, I think Turmoil should be in that list of bands. And another one I think would be your mom.
Okay. Cool.
What?
Cool. Yeah.
Sorry. No, but Turmoil, yes, 100%. The conversation just died.
Yeah, I know it did. I'm sorry. Here we are.
Look at that. Look at this. What does it do with look at the homeboy with the couch? I know that dude, the giant dude with the blonde hair. What's his name? Because he's so tall, and I'm tall, but he's taller than me.
Good question.
Man. You know, another. Okay, so let's run it back just a minute. Another band that I think that does not, a couple bands that I don't think get enough like respect from. And here's the thing, like we're sort of coming from that. We're coming from that hardcore scene, but we also come from the Christian metal scene. It's fine, nothing wrong with that. It's not a dirty word. Cyst is one of the bands that I think that I think a lot of bands. I mean,
they're re-releasing their record.
I saw something recently,
Yeah.
kind of like they're one of the bands that I think that people sort of like sleep on from that time period. You and I also talked about Shutdown is another band from that late 90s, early 2000s time period that I do not think gets enough respect. Because they had like that one full length on Victory, then there's because you gotta think like bands, they get signed and they go on tour like this is fuck this, and then just break up and they go work their uncle's fucking, whatever factory,
Right.
Especially they're from Jersey factory or whatever. Like they're just like, but anyway, so like, but Shutdown's a good example. Another great. I know that I think they've been getting a lot of love recently, which is finally wonderful. But Dwid and Integrity.
Oh yeah.
I know they've had 1,000 members over the years, but Dwid, I'm based on the main guy, but like Integrity is a great example of they're a great example of a band that like from the time period we're talking about that people should check out. And man, I mean, there's so God, dude.
Well, what I'm gonna do is when we're done, I'm going to compile a playlist. I'm actually going to go through with a fine-tooth comb, and I'm going to make a playlist of every single band that we talked about. So you can go and, well, the ones that I can find anyway. And you guys can
include early Atreyu and early 18 Visions.
I mean, yeah.
People don't know, dog.
100%. I will actually be right back while Joe answers this question.
Go for it, Joe. Talk about
this is an easy answer. The answer, John Humphreys, no, we have not discussed Figure 4. And I have a feeling Dan is upset that we have not talked about Figure 4 because he is having one of those, oh my God moments. Why haven't we talked about Figure 4?
I personally Figure 4, great band. I love those dudes. Like they were around the same time my band was active back then. Fantastic live band. I remember the first time I saw them was at Cornerstone. Speaking of Cornerstone, and blew me away then. And then any time we would have shared a venue with them over the next 5 or so years, dude, those guys, unbelievable live band, great live band. But the only thing is they kind of did that traditional kind of like New York hardcore sound.
Yes.
The only thing that sort of held them back, I mean, if you call it during that time period, like honestly, if you would have fast forwarded them to like 10, 15 years into like 2010 with their band, they probably would have blown up. But the fact that they happened like in the late 90s, early 2000s, pre-social media, this and that, and the whole like NYHC sound, it was super like insular. You know what I mean? Like people, there were, no matter what city you went to, during that time, there was always a crowd that liked that NYHC, but like Madball, like Sick It All, Agnostic Front.
Dude, Madball.
Any big city had that scene, but you could only do so much with like 50 fans in a particular town.
Yeah. Hey, and they're not going to see you too, if you're playing 3 times that week. They're not going to come see you all 3 times.
Well, and just because they may see you in Chicago doesn't mean they're going to see you in like Champaign or like freaking where, you know what I mean? Like you can't make a U.S. tour out of fans of NYHC in the late 90s.
Yeah,
which is why even the biggest bands of that didn't do much during that time period, right?
Yeah. So I have a question actually. And you're the perfect guy to ask because. This is something that's always been bothering me, and we'll end up wrapping up here in a little bit because we're kind of running out of time. But yeah, I know, right? We're running out. We're running out of time. But how do you okay? So go back in time. You are planning out a tour. How the hell do you decide where to go?
Okay,
instead of just showing up in some hole in the ground place. Yeah.
So in the mid to late 90s, I was involved in a couple different music scenes. I was in the metal hardcore scene as well, but I was also in like the alternative pop rock scene as well. You know, Daniel. I'm like, we weren't a big band yet at that time, but like it was a very similar thing. So pre-social media, pre.com, pre-2005. Let's just say pre-2005. Like, you know,
from the beginning of time till 2005. Yeah.
Basically, you know, you had a couple things handy for you. You had like college radio, and you had fanzines, indie scenes, things like that. Those two things were, if you were an independent artist, a band, whether you were a rock band or a metal, hardcore, punk, it didn't matter what it was. You used a network of fanzines and a network of college radio stations. Because the cool thing was basically almost any decent sized city in America has a college that has a radio station. And at least the cool thing
or
was
two or three or seven.
Oh yeah, but like, let's say if you lived in New Orleans, you go to Tulane, you have this where I was from, you know, like, you know, or like and sometimes you have multiple, because you had like multiple colleges in the area, especially in the Northeast and stuff like that, or the West Coast, you know. So you would have these stations that would have a 1 hour show that would probably play your style of music, and there was these networks that you knew who to call, the station who had the whatever show, and you could basically book a summer tour that way, because you knew that who ran scenes in St. Louis, Memphis, Nashville, Louisville, Charlottesville, you know, like you kind of keep going, then down to Miami, and then across to New Orleans, Biloxi, Houston, you know what I mean? So that's how you would basically do it back then. And the thing was, people don't understand too is how cheap gasoline was. People don't understand that when you and I were kids, gasoline was less than $1 a gallon.
It was like 75 cents, 85 cents. Yeah.
Yeah. When I was in high school, like you could fill up your car for $10.
Yeah.
And that was like good gas.
Dude, those were the days. So even $20. Like,
so as a
I don't
band,
want to think about how much I spent on gas yesterday.
So as a band, you could basically buy like a $300, $400 van, you know, a decent quality van, and then for less than $1 a gallon, you could tour the United States, sleep at people's houses, and it was super easy to book because there's always venues that need people, you know. And then you would basically just find you try to find places that had a venue that would let you play and a radio station, if it's a college station or if it's a radio station that would play or at least promote your show. They may not play your shit, but at least they'd say, hey, you know, Dickhead and the McGees are playing at Charlie's on Saturday night. Come out, I'll be there. You know,
right?
And you know,
get
what I mean?
A free radio station T-shirt. Yeah,
yeah, you know what I mean. So like, but it'd be some college station, you know, like whether it be in Austin at UNT or whether it be, you know, in Champaign, you know, Illinois, or you know, all the places you could. God damn, dude. I mean, it's like ridiculous. But the college network was what really helped you out back then. And it was hard because, I mean, people don't understand, dude. Back then, like, it cost money to call someone long distance.
Yeah.
Isn't that hilarious? You're trying to tell my daughter, like, hey, back then, if I wanted to call someone and they lived more than 30 miles away from me, it cost money. What do you mean?
You're stocking up on those calling cards before you leave town.
Yeah. And like, oh, dude, I remember we'd go on tour and we'd have like an AT&T card. And you could like call the number and then type in the thing. That way we wouldn't get screwed with like payphones and stuff. You know, like you'd call the 1-800 number and then you type in your number. Then you would type in the venue or whoever your contact was. Hey, we're in Albuquerque. Where do we need to meet you? And drive 10 miles down the road to. Dude, it's insane. But
you have no GPS. You know,
nothing.
Yeah.
And this was even pre-MapQuest, bro. Like we would literally get like the old school atlases, like the books and stuff. It's like here's Idaho, bam. I love you, bro. But like, you know, it was atlases, not even MapQuest, not GPS, nothing, dude. Like you literally had to understand how to, and it wasn't always to like take Interstate 30 or Interstate 75, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it was some of these places, especially when you're talking about small out of the way, like college towns, you're taking like highways and stuff. And when you're in like a band full of tattooed guys in a van,
How are you going to stop and ask for direction without grandma calling the police?
I can't,
like
dude,
immediately.
There was times. There are literally times that I remember literally multiple times when we had been in a van, we had money, and we were no drugs, no alcohol, like on us at all, like nothing in the vehicle.
Just our Bibles with us, ma'am.
Exactly. Yeah, have fun trying to explain that to you people. We'd pull into a place, and like it'd be 3 a.m, and we were literally out of gas. And we're just like, oh, it'd be in the middle of nowhere. But we were okay because we didn't have to be at the venue until 3 the next day. And it was only 2 hours away. But we're just like, well, we're literally out of gas. So we would pull into a place and they'd be closed.
Oh, geez.
And you'd have a cop pull up after about half an hour. Hey, what are you boys up to? And well, we're trying to get to so-and-so. We need gas. And they're closed until 7 a.m. We all need to move along. We can't, dipshit. Like, we're out of gas. We all need to move along. Take us to jail then, bro. Like, but yeah, that's what life was like back then. Like, you had no idea where you were. You were scared to death all the time that you were going to get hauled off to jail. I mean, it was, and this was just, and the silly thing is like, we weren't, like the bands, especially the bands that I was in, we weren't doing drugs or like drinking or like, we didn't have, you know what I mean? It's like, we weren't like a hip hop group. I can't imagine. I can't imagine the shit that they had to go through.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like we went through hard time, like ridiculously hard times just for look. And it really, I remember, so my dad, one of the songs that really sticks with me is Crosby, Stills and Nash song called Almost Cut My Hair.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not about cutting your hair. It's about like going through so much bullshit that you really think about changing who you really are. And I remember like as a kid going like touring in the late 90s, I remember like, I didn't have long hair or anything, but I remember like my dad playing that song from as a kid. And I remember just being like, that song's not about hair. That song is about like, and like, I remember like going to these little towns and like people look at me, I was like, I'm not even a hippie. I don't have long hair. And they're looking at me like I'm some like thug or something. It's like, bro, I'm here. I'm just trying to get gas, man, and get away from your shit town.
Yeah. I just need some gas, maybe a Gatorade or something,
touring during that time was hard. It was really hard.
Well, then
and we had it easy as young, and I'm not trying. We had it easy as young Caucasian men. Like we really did have it very easy because there was other people that like had their life was hell trying to tour through the 80s and 90s through America. I can't imagine. You know what I mean? I can't put myself in their shoes.
So along those lines, I have another question, and that is, I just decided to just turn this into an interview. I'm going to rapid fire questions at you now. When with especially with the Christian scene, like I know a lot of the shows that you could get booked were like VFW Hall. Or or churches or youth centers. This is our youth center. We have a juice bar in here. Like that sort of thing. Was there ever anything like? Did a lot of these guys that were booking you guys to play like their youth group, or did they even know what you guys just sounded like? And were they shocked whenever they actually heard it?
So very rarely. So when I was doing the societies, so I was in a couple Christian like metal bands. I was in Society's Finest, did the No Promise thing. I played bass a couple of the most of the time, people that brought you in town, 97% of the time, someone in charge knew what you sounded like. They were booking the show. Occasionally, you would run into an incident where Joey booked the show. Yeah, but Mr. Stevenson was in charge of the place, or he's the pastor. Yeah, or and he was just like, what is all this nonsense? Which is what you never really get when you book secular shows. When you book bars, and you never get that garbage. Everyone, and honestly, with societies, and we tried very hard just to book like club shows. We tried hard to avoid, coffee shops. You know what I mean? Like there are Christian venues. Like we tried hard because those were always just it would end up being like just some kind of BS and some kind of hassle. You know?
With the passer walking out in the middle of your set.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. Y'all can have your money back.
Or the pastor walking out, or it just being like, I'm just going to take a minute. Anybody that has dedicated themselves to the Lord tonight, and everybody's got their promise rings on, right? That have saved themselves. Please, just raise your hand up right now. Yeah, it's like everybody's got their eyes closed. Nobody's going to see you.
Nobody's looking. Nobody's looking.
Yeah, like that. That's the kind of stuff that even we dealt with, a little bit in our smaller sort of scale band. And it's I'm not here to like.
We tried to avoid it. We tried really hard, and it might have been easier if we would have gone like the Christian venue route thing and tried to. We just never thought of that as an option. Like we were just like we want to be viewed as like a metal band, and like you and I have talked about. Like we made a lot of mistakes because we didn't know what we were doing. We were trying to blaze a trail that wasn't there. Like we were like, how do you do this? How do you come out of the metal scene, with metal, whatever, and like try to do this and be, Christian band and like just trying to make good music. Like, how do we do this? And we honestly we never could quite, we never could get a solid foothold and make it work. And I'm fully to blame for like, I don't know, man. Like not seeing certain things, especially as a young guy, But man.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you think the bands that we grew up listening to, and even a lot of these metalcore bands. Because I remember just thinking that like if a band had a tape out or they had a CD out or something, that meant that they were like on a certain level. Yeah, So when you're playing in your own band, and some asshole from Pennsylvania calls you and is all like, "Hey, I want to sign your band." You know what I mean? You're like, "Okay, man, this is it. This is they're gonna make a fucking Lifetime original movie about this. In 30 years about my rise to fame.
Just show me where to sign."
Yeah, and so you've got all this stuff kind of floating around in your head, and but at the same time you're like, well, I'm artistic and I want to make what I want to make, and I want to be creative and I want to be unique and all that stuff. And then you get out on the road and you're like, holy shit, is there even a market for this?
Yeah, I think honestly the road was really the place where we started to experience resistance. And when I say, because like when it came to like getting signed, no one ever said sound like this or make music like that. Like they're just like, you guys are doing you guys went from 0 to wherever you're at on your own. Here's a little more money. Go record an album and see if you can't go from there to here, Like no, like we didn't ever really had like Brandon or like Roy or any of the guys over at Solid State, like Bill, like they were never like sound like this. They were just like, dude, whatever you guys are doing, man, over the last couple of years, you guys have busted your ass and done well. Here, go record a full-length album. And that was it. That was both good and bad, because it would have been nice to have probably a little. At hindsight, it would have been nice to have a little more sort of hands-on. So, like, hey, do you guys have like an actual like lineup that can tour?
Yeah.
Like, but at the same time, they let us sink or swim on our own. You know what I mean? And whatever, I'm glad, honestly, they gave us as much freedom as they did. It would have been nice to have, in hindsight, it would have been nice because I love Roy to death. And like, if he would have like called me up and said, hey bro, do this, or like, have you considered this? I would have done what he said. Cause like, I respected the shit out of him back then, or Bill, especially, if he would have said, hey man, like, the album's great. Have you guys considered like maybe this or that? And like kind of guided our band a little more. We might, but there's also other circumstances that kind of, like took our band in this direction that, we've, and it just life shit, and it didn't work out,
See, I'm surprised to hear that, because isn't that the exception to the rule?
Yeah. I think a lot of people would like to say that like, I would have been so huge if it weren't for this person. Honestly, like the only person that stood in front of me in success, or especially me and Josh, like Society's like, we're just talking about this. Like it was mainly me and Josh, like the vocalist and like the songwriter, like we worked together. We got in our own way. It would never the record label, never the media, or we got in our own way. That's all. Like we just, like we were a little of I think we're a combination of a little ahead of our time and also just human bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and from the label side of it too, I've talked to Roy a few times, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think what he was kind of laying down was kind of at that time, especially with like the early solid state stuff, they were very, very encouraging because they were just like, we don't know, we're gonna let these guys all do it, and they had a whole bunch of bands signed, so they're like, one of these bands is gonna figure it out. They're gonna do they're gonna do the innovative thing.
And they were right.
And then we're all going to get paid. You know what I mean? Like it's all going to work out really well. And that's not me saying that. That's not by any means me saying Roy was like that. It's like, oh, just get paid or whatever. But like, because obviously has a real passion for.
Well, you got to think too. So solid state, dude. Think about the mainstream like record industry. I remember, like in the '90s reading that like, what was it, like 1 to 5% of albums actually recouped, right? Like something like that.
Yeah, it's a crazy low number.
Like, honestly, like I think that Solid State's business model is way better than that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying that everybody go, but like if you think about, even if like 5 out of 20 Solid State bands broke even, that's better than the mainstream, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think too, at that time they're like, we're letting a whole bunch of bands do a whole lot of different stuff.
Oh, and dude, if they wanted.
If one of them catches on,
look at that trailer. I know we joke, but look at the focal point is what got Ryan and them signed. But like, look at the Training for Utopia album.
Yeah,
that shit was weird, man.
Yeah, it was odd. It was fun.
But it was like what is this?
A kid that grew up listening to Korn records isn't gonna grab a Training for Utopia record and be like, this is it. This is my jam. I mean, somebody probably did. But like
that's exactly what you did, dude.
That is that. Wait, isn't that the story I told at the beginning of this? Yeah, yeah. But yeah, and then you look at, and I think the thing, to bring this sort of to a head too, is I think that like all of the hard work, John Humphreys commented earlier, like thank you for going through all that back in the day, and that's actually a really strong. I'll actually throw it back up on the screen here because I like seeing comments like this. But you say, thanks for going through all this back in the day, and you guys and all the bands I grew up with coming through shitty little towns like mine. Like, I think it's cool seeing that it paid off. I'm not going to say it paid off for everybody. Obviously not everybody that was involved in that scene is rich now or anything like that. But like, really, there was a lot of ways being paved. And I know from your guys' perspective, it's like, well, we were just trying to survive and do this band thing. But, you look at it now you helped legitimize a style of music. Now when people say metalcore, yeah, man, it's metalcore. It's a respected genre with, billions of dollars in promotion, and bands put out brand new music videos every day. And they're still like, I mean, to look at musical trends. Like, let's look at
Ghostman.
Yeah.
That dude is like a hardcore black metal. Like he literally he was probably one of the elementary school kids at our concerts when we were kids. When we were late in our 20s, he was like someone's little brother that was at one of those shows, right?
Yeah.
And now that dude's like headlining Lollapalooza.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's one of those, like, there's the inspiration aspect of it, and then there's even Ryan from Focal Point, TFU, and then Demon Hunter. Gets like totally.
He won a Grammy, right? He won a Grammy.
I think he did. Yeah,
for best packaging. Yeah, you won a couple, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, not to mention he drew everybody's album covers for like a billion years. Yeah, you're like, so there was like,
so did Chris though. Chris did all of our Chris, who is guitar player for Societies, vocalist for Embodiment. He also did all of our artwork.
Yeah,
but he also he did like Marilyn Manson stuff and like all that stuff. Chris is one of the most talented artists I've ever known in my life.
Yeah, I mean, it's just thinking about that, like the impact that people have that's beyond just like like I think it's cool because it's like if you look at other trends. Like
I'm not going to say his name, but one of my good friends, he's on tour right now, like with like Dua Lipa.
Oh, okay,
like, and he comes from our scene.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And like it's the guys that come from our scene because they were willing, that work ethic and that like the love of music, the me against the world, mentality. It allows guys from our scene to like be, someone on Paul McCartney's team, or someone on Dua Lipa's team, or someone on Harry Styles' team. I know guys that work for those people, and like they came from the scene that you and I and Joe like came from as kids.
Yeah.
And like, it's cool to see like someone that you and I know, the tour manager for Beach House.
Right.
Or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like that happens. And because the shit that we went through back then, it's like, if you could have success before social media and all this stuff, and you have a established reputation, then now, then great. We can totally use you now. Because you know what I mean? It's like it's because you didn't give up after you failed the first time. Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's the lesson here, because like what I'm getting at with trends and stuff, you look at other styles of music that have folded in and out of popularity. Has metalcore slowed down since it became popular? I mean, sure. I don't think that it's ever. I think that once it hit, I think it's been higher, but I don't think it's ever gone below that impact point. It's never had the decline.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It kicked the door down and was like, I'm here in the party. I'm here. And I don't think it's ever left.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always there. And there aren't a lot of other styles of music that got popular in a decade that like would still still continue on.
And I use punk in quotations, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Other than punk, like metalcore was probably kind of so okay, here's the thing. I tried to have a conversation with someone this the other day. You have like punk and hip hop, right? Like in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And then come the mid 90s, metalcore was kind of really the next underground thing.
Yeah.
Because other than that, all the college radio stuff, which is all cool, but it wasn't really like genre like bending and stuff. I think when metalcore came along, and I'll throw new metal in that as well. Fine, go ahead. But like from metalcore, new metal, all this, mid to late 90s, like that was honestly, and since punk rock, that's really the biggest sort of
people like doing a new thing.
Yeah, in that style of music and heavy music, like because other than that, it was like thrash, death,
thrash metal, death, black metal,
and then all of a sudden here comes metalcore. Like it's a breath of fresh air. Like, oh wow, okay,
yeah. And they just borrowed elements from everything and blended it together
throughout the rule book.
Yeah, that worked, and that was. I think that's kind of like what we've been getting at after 2 hours is just the impact of just a few people.
Yeah.
A bunch of people that knew. It's such a small world. Like that's one of the things that I've noticed, like just doing the show over the years has been like, whenever I first started doing interviews and stuff, like actually talking to musicians and not just talking shit about their record, privately on my own podcast. That's a whole nother story. But like, it was like I'd meet one person, I'd do an interview and it'd be cool. And then they'd be all like, oh, well, have you talked to, so-and-so? And it's somebody that's like, oh, I don't even know how to reach out to him. They're like, oh, dude, it's fine. Just like email him here. Or like, you know what I mean? Like kind of point me in the direction of who to talk to next. And you start realizing what a small world it is, and then, 3 years later, you're doing a living sacrifice question and answer session. And, I'm sitting there. It was one of the weirdest moments of my life because, like, you've got Rocky Gray is there, it's a Zoom call, right? So you got like Bruce Fitzhugh, DJ Sacrifice, Arthur Green, Corey and Matt Putman are there. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, why the hell is my little picture up next to it? Because it's such a small world. Everybody knows each other. And of course, I'm like the guy that's like, I was never even really a part of this scene. I showed up late for the party and was like, oh, hey, guys, let's talk about the old days. You know what I mean? And it, I like felt like felt like so honored and like such like a poser so much in my life except in that moment. But yeah, it's such a small.
I'm sure they did 100% job of like just talking to you, bro.
Oh, yeah, man.
That's the thing. It's like they don't make you feel any different.
No, not at all. And it's that inclusivity.
It's like I've known these guys my whole life.
Yeah, it's that inclusivity, I think, that draws me to the style. Right back to, it's like I sent a letter to Jesse Smith and he sent me stickers. You know what I mean? Like that sort of like, all of these guys that bore this massive genre on their backs for so many years and got no recognition for it, are still the nicest, most humblest people on earth, Yep.
100%.
So I guess that's my in conclusion thesis statement. But
no, I agree, man. Like the people from the scene that like I still can connect with today and talk to, like, I they're some of the best people I've ever known. And I mean, I talk to them every day, but like if I shoot them a message right now. And if I haven't talked to them in a year or two, like I shoot them a message and they respond back within hours, like, hey, oh, cool, man. Right on, man. Like, how's whatever, you know, like, no big deal. You know, it's just because we have life, man. And like, it's just, they're just real. You know what I mean? They're real people.
Yep. 100%. Well, guys,
I love this scene.
That is going to do it for this episode of Discuss Metal Live.
I love you guys, man.
Yeah, we
love you too, man.
And we hope we hope that we do obviously this is not the last time you guys are going to see Joel on here. He's got too much to say and not enough time to say it. So
I'm sure we'll have a ton of comments to respond to as well.
Yeah,
I can't believe you didn't talk about blah, 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 blah.
I'm going to send every single one of those to you too.
Do it.
Yeah, I'll send it to you and like it'll be like directed at me and I'll be like, Joel, you want to tell me what the hell your problem is? How come you forgot this? Yeah, like so it'll be a lot of fun. We'll catch you guys next month live on Discuss Metal Live. If you guys are listening to this on the audio podcast, because we'll cut the audio. We'll cut the audio and put it in a podcast for everybody to listen to. But if you're hearing that and you want to watch this live, make sure you're subscribed on Discuss Metal Dan on YouTube so that you get the notification and all that whenever we do live stuff like this. So we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next episode of Discography Discussion, which I think is dropping as of the taping of this 2 days from now. So, make sure to look out for that, and we will see you guys next time.